Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, President Buhari arrives in Ankara, the Turkish capital, on a state visit ahead of the D-8 meeting in Istanbul on Friday. Migration, defense and security top the president's agenda. Federal government distances the military from rumored vaccination in schools, insists confirmed monkeypox virus cases in the country remain 3. House of Representatives to probe termination of contract with Intels by federal government, demands reinstatement of agreement pending outcome of investigation. And the head of Kenya's election commission raises concerns over next week's presidential rerun, seeks meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga.
On business news tonight, World Bank denies disagreement with Nigeria's finance minister over foreign borrowing for infrastructure projects.
On sports news, Rivers Angels of Port Harcourt beat Ebom Angels on penalties to win this year's ITO Cup women's title in Jos.
And from Abuja, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo meets Minister of State for Petroleum Ibe Kachuku and NNPC GMD Mekanti Baru to discuss issues surrounding the oil and gas industry.
We begin with the arrival of the president in Ankara, the Turkish capital, where he's visiting on the invitation of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ahead of the D-8 summit, which begins on Friday, October the 20th in Istanbul. Nigeria is seeking partnership with Turkey in the areas of production of light weapons and military exercises to take security challenges in the country. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra, who is covering the president's trip to Turkey, reports that the Minister of Defense, Mansurdan Ali, today met with high-ranking officials of the Turkish Ministry of Defense to discuss the agreements. A statement from the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Femi Adesina, explains that President Buhari will, among other things, also discuss education, migration issues, defense, cooperation and security with the D-8 leaders.
8:20 local time, President Muhammadu Buhari arrives Ankara en route to the D-8 summit in Istanbul Friday in company of the wife of the president. Ministers, diplomatic community and top government officials are waiting to receive him.
The hosts are happy.
Nigerian ambassador to Turkey captures the import of the visit.
That he is coming at the time that we witness little decrease in trade relations between the two countries. From 1.2 billion that we had in 2013 or so, it has gone down low, and the host president here is determined to improve on it, and I think it's also in our own good that we improve on it.
Earlier in the day, Nigeria's Minister of Defense was at the Defense Section, an office relocated from the United Arab Emirates for strategic reasons.
And after establishing the office, the Defense Section Ankara made a lot of efforts to improve the military cooperation between Nigeria and Turkey. And right now, I'm happy to inform the Honorable Minister of Defense that the military training cooperation agreement has been signed between Nigeria and Turkey.
As part of the bilateral agreements between Nigeria and Turkey, especially in terms of security, the Minister for Defense was here at the Ministry of Defense in Turkey. The meeting is closed to the media, but not before the minister states the challenges of his country.
You are aware Nigeria is currently facing multinational security challenges, especially in terrorism in the northeast part of my country, and many other security challenges, as you rightly said.
At the end of the meeting, we got highlights of what transpired.
It was very successful, and I believe my partner has acknowledged the need for us to come together. We have common problem in fighting terrorism, and terrorism is something that needs to be addressed globally, not by a single country.
We hope to get further details in days to come regarding this military cooperation between these two members of the D-8 organization, especially when the summit's communique is adopted in what will be known as the Istanbul Declaration. From Ankara, Turkey, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
Well, Ibrahim Adra does join us right now from Ankara. Hi, Ibrahim. Well, we know the president has arrived. What more can you tell us? We know you did talk about that meeting that was held today. What else transpired?
Yeah, well, Ijoma, let me begin by letting you in on what the president will be doing tomorrow. He has his hands full, beginning with a visit to the mausoleum, where he'll be laying the wreath, and then that tete-a-tete with the Turkish president at the palace, which is going to also include a luncheon later in the afternoon. And then that visit to the State Grand National Assembly, where he'll be meeting with the Speaker. But besides that, in my interaction with the ambassador earlier on today, he said the Turkish government has been looking forward to this meeting earnestly, especially as it is some sort of return visit. Recall that the Turkish president was in Nigeria early March in 2016. So they are really looking forward to this. And yes, in education, I also got a hint that they will be discussing the fate of Nigerian students who were, refused visa to come back into the country to continue their education, because of the fallout of the botched coup here in Turkey. So, and as far as the military cooperation is concerned, we also got a hint from the defense attaché that already a delegation from Turkey have been in Nigeria, particularly at the DICON, that's the Defense Industry Corporation, where they have submitted their proposals as to what can be done to make the Defense Industry Corporation functional again. But we don't know in terms of Naira and Kobo how much they'll be putting into that venture. Who knows? Hopefully that might come out when the presidents would be speaking to the media after their meeting tomorrow.
All right, thanks a lot, Ibrahim. I'm sure you have more for us in the days ahead as the summit does get underway fully in the coming couple of days. Thanks a lot for that. Now, before the president left for Turkey, he presided over the Federal Executive Council meeting where the frenzy created by the ongoing special military exercise in the South-South and the South-East was discussed. The Executive Council is particularly worried about the reports of vaccination exercises allegedly carried out by the army. The Health Minister, Professor Isaac Adewale, is insisting that the federal government will not conduct such campaigns without involving state governments. Our correspondent Gloria Umezoke reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari arrives the council chambers at 10 o'clock to preside over the Federal Executive Council meeting before his departure to Turkey for the D-8 summit. An hour later, the meeting was over. The Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, debunked rumors of an alleged deadly vaccination by the military.
The military, as part of a campaign of winning over the heart and soul of the people, will get engaged with several things. In the past, the military was noted to have even constructed roads. The military will do outreaches, measure blood pressure, talk to people. These are normal things. I referred only to vaccination. We had to request for the assistance of the military in Borno State to reach inaccessible area with respect to the polio campaign. So we have worked with the military in the past and we shall continue to work with them. There are doctors in the military, there are nurses, and when you go abroad, some of the best institutions abroad are those ones managed by the military. So we cannot disown the military. But what I want to put across is that the military is not involved with any vaccination.
Professor Isaac Adewale briefed State House correspondents on 11 states where 74 suspected cases of the monkeypox virus have been confirmed.
We have confirmed 3 in Bayelsa State, and 12 of the suspected cases from Bayelsa tested negative. 4 suspected cases from Lagos tested negative. We are still expecting the results of the other ones.
Besides public health, the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, said the council discussed and approved the sum of 236 million naira for the completion of Savke Dam in Kaduna State to improve irrigation for agriculture development.
Where will the contractor remobilize to site? He found out that a lot of components of the irrigation project had been vandalized. And for us to be able to put that project into effective use, we now have to do those rehabilitation works.
Well, no doubt, this remains possibly one of the shortest Federal Executive Council meetings, largely owing to the President's trip to Turkey, where he is expected to participate at the 9th D-8 summit. The President is expected back into the presidential villa on Sunday, the 22nd of October. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Following a passionate debate, the House of Representatives is asking the management of the Nigeria Ports Authority and the Attorney General of the Federation to reinstate the Council of Intels Nigeria Limited pending an investigation by the House. The House has also resolved to investigate the circumstances around the contract termination and ascertain whether or not due process was followed. While some lawmakers spoke in support of protecting investments in the country, others were of the view that the matter should be resolved in court. Our correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
It's an issue that has been in the news, the termination of the boat's pilotage, monitoring and supervision agreement between the Nigerian Ports Authority and Intels Nigeria Limited.
It started
at the proceedings of the House of Representatives, this lawmaker brings the issue up as a matter of urgent public importance, calling for an investigation.
The House observes that the basis for the termination of the boat's pilotage, monitoring and supervision agreement was on the alleged illegality of the agreement, cited the violation of some sections of the 1999 Constitution as amended, particularly on the Treasury single account policy of the federal government.
It leads to a heated debate.
We are losing more revenue now having Intel in charge alone, monopolizing the operation. We don't even know how much we get. We don't even know. As of today, if you ask Nigeria, what do you get for Intel services, they don't know. Because all services operation are continuous operations. They are not done on a one-day basis that you go and pay and collect this. Mr. Speaker, right, honorable colleagues, let us not deceive ourselves here. Let us not allow one company to monopolize the economy of this country.
If they must cancel that concession, let them investigate. And my colleague was talking about the courts. We know the courts are there. We know the courts are there. But, Mr. Speaker, you are a lawyer. We have to protect the rest. If you send this information out, they can go to court. But by the time you get judgment, the damage would have been done.
The motion is finally put to a vote.
Those who are in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.
The House has also called on the management of the Nigerian Ports Authority and the Attorney General of the Federation to reinstate the contract of Intels Nigeria Limited pending the outcome of the investigation by the House. An ad hoc committee is to investigate the matter and report back in 2 weeks.
Bill is referred to Committee of the Whole.
Meanwhile, a series of tweets on the Twitter handle of the Nigerian president appear to emphasize government's position on the Treasury single account policy. It reads, President Muhammadu Buhari has instructed all government agencies to ensure compliance with his presidential order on the TSA. The TSA presidential order in August 2015 is intended to ensure greater transparency and accountability in the management of public funds. It is expected that this policy and its implementation will form a major part of the investigation that will be carried out by the House of Representatives. The House has also resolved to set up another ad hoc committee to investigate allegations of violations of the Constitution and the Fiscal Responsibility Act by the Transmission Company of Nigeria in respect of foreign loans of $1.5 billion. The committee has 8 weeks to conclude its work. Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, Delta State Police Command arrests 4 suspects over the kidnap of 4 foreign missionaries in the state. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.